Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
An episode of very biting satire on this Sunday, The Henry Morgan Show. This episode goes back to June 25th, 1947, and this episode is entitled The Morgan Trouble Clinic, as we hear the announcer questionably announce,
The Henry Morgan Show? Eversharp, manufacturers of Eversharp Schick injector razors and blades and famous Eversharp precision lighting instruments, brings you the Henry Morgan Show, featuring Bernie Green and his orchestra and a few surprises. Good evening, everybody. Here's Morgan. Thank you very much. And welcome to Bank Night. You know, most people think of banks as cold, heartless, large institutions. And they're wrong. There are small banks, too. Have you ever really thought about banks for any reason? Well, a bank is a place where you take your money and you give it to a man behind bars. Sounds like a joke coming, doesn't it? This man is known as a teller. Some tellers, of course, stay in the same job for years and never get anywhere. But some who get to learn the banking business soon rise to become embezzlers. Either way, they're behind bars. That's a joke, see? That's the way we made it, starting with the first off. Since the war, the banks have become much more humanitarian institutions, especially in giving loans to veterans. Let's see how it works when a veteran walks into a bank where I'm working to get a loan. Pardon me.
Yes?
Is this the First National Bank and No Trust Company?
Yes. What can we do for you?
Well, I'm here to talk about a loan.
A loan, certainly. For which country?
No, this is a personal loan.
Personal, I see. Well, we're at your service, and I'm sure we'll be able to give you the loan. But we do like to know a little something about you. Can you tell me something about yourself?
Well, I'm a veteran.
Next.
Oh. Yeah, but just a second. You see, I'd like to open a hot dog stand, and I need $500.
$500 for a hot dog stand. Banking circles, that's considered a great deal of mustard. Yes, it is. But we might consider the loan if you have a good character. You weren't a second lieutenant by any chance?
No.
Good. You see, I was a private.
You were? So was I. Hiya, buddy. What outfit were you with?
The MPs, and take your hands out of your pockets. Now, about the collateral for the loan. You own a car?
Yeah, I bought a second-hand car from a used car dealer last month. I paid $1,500 for it.
Well, that's worth $200. Stocks, bonds, insurance?
Oh, no, my wife and I have nothing but some furniture and food.
Furniture, eh? Where's your house?
Oh, we just have furniture, no house. I told you I'm a veteran.
But you mentioned food.
Oh, well, we keep our food in my mother-in-law's house. Just a half a dozen lamb chops.
6 lamb chops, eh? That's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $60. Anything else?
No, there's nothing else. Can I have the loan?
Well, let's see. Will you sit under this bright light, please?
This bright light is blinding.
Yes, isn't it? Now then, you admitted you had a car and furniture, didn't you?
Well,
Didn't you, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
What about the jewelry?
What jewelry?
Where'd you hide it? Who's your fence?
A fence? Why, I haven't got a fence.
You're lying. You know what it means to hold out on the bank? Remember, you're under oath.
Oh, what do you mean? I just came in here.
Shut up. Who sent you? Who you fronting for?
Frontin'? I want a lawyer. I want
A lawyer, eh, Casey?
Yeah.
Give this man 10 years in the vault with 6% off for good behavior. Well, there were some nice veterans jokes in there, but you can't expect anybody else, you know. One of the more fascinating aspects of the Eversharp Schick injector razor is that it changes blades automatically. What this means, actually, is that the Eversharp saves you a few seconds here and there. Well, after all, at the end of a full year, this amounts to almost a minute. Perhaps even more if you hurry. Heaven only knows what you're going to do with all that extra time. I really have no interest at all in discussing it. Another dismal fact about the ever-sharp chicken decker razor is that one may purchase the whole thing, razor and 20 blades, for $1.25. This saves you some money in the event you were thinking of spending more than that. So here you are with all this extra time and money and completely bored. Of course, you might try deep breathing exercises. Kills a lot of time. Goodness only knows what you're going to do with the money. You could repeat the words ever-sharp chicken decker razor over and over a few dozen times until you're bored to death. I assure you it would make absolutely no difference to anyone at all. Well, thanks anyway. My Coming Attractions Theater is doing great business. You know, that's a theater where we show nothing but the best part of the picture, the coming attractions. It's very simple. We just cut the picture down from 2 hours to 2 minutes of boredom. For instance, last week we took the pictures It Happened on Fifth Avenue, Miracle on 34th Street, and Smash Up, combined them into 3 minutes, called it Scratched Fender at 34th and 5th. This week we have a very interesting bill. Gilda, Laura, Kitty, Mildred Pierce, and Men Wanted. And we're also showing newsreels this week for the first time. Here's the first one. Professor, start the newsreel.
Pathetic Newsreel presents Events of the World Through the Eyes of a Rooster. And here we are at the famous racetrack Upside Downs for the running of the annual $2,000 Cheapskates. As you know, every year there's an important... The horses are at the post. As you know, every year there's a very important... They're off. There's Creep Away ahead by a... No, that's Walk Away. No, that's... Or is it? No, it isn't. What's Slide Away out in front? I mean in back. Where is that horse? Oh, he's at the post. He's off. They're coming down the stretch. The leaders are Hideaway, Runaway, Creep Away, Slide Away. Bringing up the rear are Crawl Away, This Away, and That Away. And the winner is... Max.
Here's Governor Horatio P. Hamhock speaking for Pathetic Newsreel from the Governor's Mansion.
I am happy to present this check. Am I standing all right? For the housing fund that the fine children of this proud state... Beat it, will you, kid? You're in the way of the camera. Have collected. I believe in housing. Can you see me all right? Yeah, I believe in housing for the people of my state. Someday, they're going to live in them. This check for better housing for this state was sent directly to the governor's mansion, and it will be used to maintain the governor's mansion. And I say further... Get out of the way, Senator. Your stomach is blocking the camera. And I say further...
It's a gala day for the launching of the new destroyer, SS Seaweed. And here's the Admiral's wife about to swing the champagne bottle.
I christen thee in the name of my husband, Admiral Horatio B. Seaweed.
A little closer to the microphone, Mrs. Seaweed.
Horatio B. Seaweed.
Here goes the champagne bottle and... Oh, she missed it.
I christen thee!
Mrs. Seaweed, all right already. Here goes the champagne bottle and... Missed again.
I christen thee!
Here goes the ship down the ways. Followed by the champagne bottle and by Mrs. Seaweed.
Here comes the main feature, the coming attractions.
Coming, Sun to Fry. At our regular unpopular prices.
You hated her when you saw Wicked Woman. You were infuriated by Imperfect Lady.
You'll be thoroughly disgusted when you see...
The Rotten Tomato.
She was cruel, wicked, ruthless. But men went mad for her because she had...
A good figure.
She used men as toys, and her closet was full of them. In gripping scenes like these...
Listen to me, you.
What is it?
I love you, Sadie Corpuscle. You're different from all the other young women I've known.
How?
You're 65 years old. I tell you, I can't live without you.
Get out of my sight, Chester, quick, or I'll tell on you.
Tell what?
I'll tell about how you robbed your own mother to pay gambling debts, how you stole from the poor box to get drunk, and that you committed 4 vicious murders.
You tell?
Yes.
Sadie, you're a blabbermouth. Besides, you know I did all those things for you. You drove me to all those crimes, and what's more...
Yes.
When I was finished, you drove me back.
The Rotten Tomato is based on an idea suggested by the producer's 3-month-old son. Sadie was unscrupulous, vicious. She ruined men's lives, trampled on their hearts. Why? Why?
I don't know. That's how I've been ever since I graduated junior high.
You'll never forget the scene where Sadie meets the dangerous nightclub owner and gang boss, Duke Murata.
Hey, Rocky,
Yeah, boss.
come here and let me hit you.
Boss, why do you hit me all the time?
Because you ain't as pretty as me. Now tell me, who's that dame sitting over there?
That's Sadie Corpuscle. People whisper her name.
Yeah? Well, tell Sadie Corpuscle to come over here.
Suppose she won't come.
I heard you, Duke Murata. I'll break your heart like I broke all the others. I ain't got no heart. Then I'll break your leg. Oh, rough, huh? Well, when Duke Murata wants something, he gets it. And right now, I want a kiss. Give me a kiss. No. When I want a kiss, I get it. No. No, huh? Rocky,
Yeah, boss.
you give me a kiss. And it's for you. Yes. You're a worse flight than I am. But I love you. That's why I hate you, Sadie Corpuscle.
When you see the Rotten Tomato, you'll say, here is a girl who will go far. And what's she waiting for?
Your heart will break as Sadie lies dying and faithful Chester returns to her side.
Sadie, what's happened to you? You look terrible.
Oh, Chester, I am dying.
You look worse than that. You're so pale. You're so thin. Do something.
You expect me to gain weight while I'm dying?
Don't die, Sadie. Listen to me. Listen to me.
All right. Say something.
Even that short time we was married, and you were so cruel to me. I knew you was really affectionate and loving.
How did you know?
I watched you with other men. Sadie,
Yes.
give me a little old something to remember you by. Any little old something. Any little thing. Give me back that expensive diamond ring.
No, Chester. I want to keep this diamond ring for these last precious moments.
All right, then. Drop dead. Sadie Corpuscle.
Don't miss this picture. You'll get a strange sensation from
The Rotten Tomato.
At the Henry Morgan Theater, a current attraction.
And Eversharp didn't mind those biting commercials from Henry Morgan. I'll talk a little bit more about Henry in a moment. June 25th, 1947, the Henry Morgan Show here on this final Sunday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. A word or two about Henry Morgan. He was a biting satirist and also very self-deprecating. The reason for the introduction of the show, hello anybody, here's Morgan, there's a reason, because at the time, the wonderful singer of God Bless America, Kate Smith, introduced her show every day. Hello, everybody. And Henry said, I said hello, anybody, because I was just happy if anybody was listening. And there were a lot of people that were inspired by Henry Morgan. Among them, one of the most obscene disc jockeys ever to walk the face of the earth, Howard Stern, who took the biting satire and took it to a filthy extreme. Okay, on this Sunday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, our last Sunday being with you, June 25th, 1947, more of The Henry Morgan Show.
Once again, we take great pain...
Oh, don't sound so serious. No, for goodness sake.
Once again, we take great pain in presenting the Henry Morgan Trouble Clinic. Mr. Morgan is eminently qualified to solve all personal problems, having once spent 15 minutes thumbing through the magazines in a psychoanalyst's waiting room. His huge library contains the complete works of Dorothy Dix and 15 bound volumes of Little Orphan Annie. And here he is now, Mr. Morgan.
Good evening.
Our first case, sir, is the case of Mrs. R.T.
Hello.
You are Mrs. R.T.
Yes. Are you Mr. Morgan?
I'll ask the questions, if you please. Now, as I understand it, you are Mrs. R.T. and I am Mr. Morgan. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
I'll answer the questions, if you please. Tell me, madam, when did you first begin to have these headaches?
I don't have any headaches.
I must remind you, madam, that I am not a doctor. If you have no headaches, you should consult your physician.
Yes, sir.
Please don't touch the microphone. Now, as I understand it, when the FBI closed in, your husband took it on the alarm, and you were left alone with the baby. Is that correct?
No, Mr. Morgan. That was the case you had last week.
Yes, that's right. I got to do something about these blinding headaches. Well, let's review a minute as far as we've gone. I am Mrs. R.T. and you are Mr. Morgan. Is that right?
Well, if you say so.
No, we'll go on from there. Please don't touch the microphone.
Well, when I was 10 years old, I was living with my mother and father.
No names, please.
There were just the three of us.
No numbers, please.
Well, I mean, I was living with these relatives, and
just a moment, if you please. Am I to understand that at the age of 10, you were sponging on your parents for a living? You were so utterly lacking in self-respect that you forced yourself upon these people and demanded that they support you. Is that right?
No. I was supporting them. I was working in a sawmill.
Oh, I see. You were you?
Yes.
In other words, I'm to understand that you were working in a sawmill, were you?
Yes, sir. There was a smokehouse just across the road, and
no smoking, please.
Well, it was there I met my husband, the father of my children.
You met these two men at the smokehouse?
No, it was the same man.
Please, madam, remember we're on the air. Now, what is your problem?
Would you like to go first?
I'm glad you asked me. My problem, madam.
Please don't touch the microphone.
Forgive me. You are Mr. Morgan?
No names, please.
Oh, these blinding headaches. Well, as I was walking across the lawn...
No trespassing, please.
All right, then. Drop dead.
Sadie Corpuscle.
So far, we've only made 12 mistakes. What a night.
And this is number 18 with me.
And now, before the concert continues, a few words from our music critic, Professor Ivan Ivanovich Morgan. If you please, Professor.
Music lovers. A few words about the composer Ippolit Ivanov. In first place is that. In second place, he was born in small town. Of course, it's larger now. Some people moved in. A lot moved out, too. But some people who lived there had children. Some didn't. That's the way it was in those days.
Like I said, biting satire. June 20, even on his own industry, which was probably deserved. June 25th, 1947, The Henry Morgan Show. Thanks for tuning in to Sunday's Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Just going to take a minute here to tell you about the big savings going on now, the clearance sale at MyPillow.com. And you know, I've talked about how in my office I have a pair of my slippers, and they're really comfortable, and they're on clearance right now. The MyPillow.com slippers, $25 a pair, limit 10. And I would buy 3 or 4 more pairs. Unfortunately, they're out of my size. They also have sheets, pillowcases, clothing items, all on special right now. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the clearance tab at the top of the page, use my promo code Wyatt, or call 1-800-928-4715. Limited sizes remaining in the MyPillow slippers, limited colors on other items. MyPillow.com, clearance tab, promo code Wyatt, 1-800-928-4715. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox here on your favorite radio station, our final Sunday get-together here. Now the conclusion of the Henry Morgan Show, as it was originally broadcast June 25th, 1947.
Today, there's nobody. No. Yes, there's a few people. 2 or 300,000, but they don't like it. No. Yes, some of them like it. But they don't live there. They live in Smirsk. Smirsk is on the seashore. Or near it. Not on it. Poops is on it. In Poops is always sunshine. Rains too. About 300 days a year. But the rest of the time, fine. You know something about Poops there? You couldn't see your face in front of your head. Oh, you could see it, but you wouldn't like it. Ippolito Ivanov didn't write a single note music until he was 4 years old. Then he wrote a single note of music. That you call talent? I don't call that talent. You know what I call talent? Talent. Say, you know something? Smirsk is on the seashore. Of a lake. The people there love to go fishing. No fish in that lake. But to go fishing, you don't need fish. You need a boat. There they don't have boats. I used to have a boat. Oh, yes. Sold it. Then I bought another boat. Still got it. That's the way it was in those days. You know, at one time, they considered Ippolito Ivanov the greatest composer in Russia. They considered him the best-dressed fellow. They considered him a genius. They considered him a nobleman. They considered for a while and then rejected him. He didn't care, but he was heartbroken. Of course, today he's dead, but at that time he wasn't. Unless I got the wrong date, which is impossible. Oh, it's possible, sure. Possible. But I don't think so. Unless I'm wrong. That's possible. That's possible. It could happen to anybody. Except me.
And now a word about the orchestra. Stinks. And one last word about the composer Ippolito Vivano. If he was here today, I'd be surprised. For birthdays, weddings, anniversaries, and business gifts, remember, the best gift of all is an Eversharp CA pen. Buy yours tomorrow during the sensational Eversharp CA pen sale. Buy now and save as much as 60%.
Contrary to rumors, Morgan will be on the same corner in front of the cigar store next week at the same time.
Eversharp, manufacturers of Eversharp Chick Injector razors and blades, invite you to tune in same time, same station next week when Eversharp will again bring you the Henry Morgan Show. This is Charles Irving saying goodnight for Eversharp. This is ABC, the American Broadcasting Company.
The head of Adler's Elevated Shoes got very upset with Henry Morgan because they had shoe stores all around New York City, and Henry would tell people to go in and ask for Old Man Adler. He would speak derogatorily about the shoes. Well, not really derogatorily, but he would not speak in glowing terms about the shoes. And Adler tried to cancel his advertising until he talked to his stores, and he would refer to Old Man Adler. It was surprising to find out how many people would go into Adler's shoe stores and want to speak to Old Man Adler. That indicated that, yes, the advertising was working. June 25th, 1947, The Henry Morgan Show on this final Sunday edition of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station. Thanks for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox for the final Sunday here on your favorite station. Don't complain to the station. The decision to end this show was mine. My health is not the greatest, and right now my back is just screaming bloody murder at me, and I need to get the heating pad on it. But before I do that, let's start a new yours truly Johnny Dollar story. This episode, part one of the 5-part Longshot Matter, was originally broadcast June 25th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
Welcome to Hollywood, Mr. Dollar. This is Darrell.
Darrell?
Jim Darrell. Darrell and Clark Insurance. We wrote up the Palm Quiz policy.
Oh, that Darrell. For a minute, I thought maybe...
Yeah, everyone does. About the policy. Understand you're worried about it.
National Underwriters is. They asked me to take a look.
Come on over and help yourself. It's a simple enough policy. $100,000 coverage on both Dr. Carl Palmquist and his wife.
It's that double indemnity clause I'm interested in. Becomes effective the end of this week, doesn't it?
That's right. Why? What's wrong?
An anonymous letter sent to underwriters. Kind of hints that somebody's going to try to collect.
Tonight and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. From Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to National Underwriters Association, 1180 River Road, Hartford, Connecticut. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Longshot Matter. Expense account item 1, $174.90, airfare and incidentals to Hollywood, California. A good night's sleep at the Beverly Hilton Hotel, and in the morning sunshine, Hartford's slush was only a clammy memory. Nobody walks in California, so when in Rome, item 2, $2 even, cab fare to Darrell and Clark Insurance Brokers. Beverly Hills, where else?
Come on in, Dollar. Won't be a minute. Grab a chair.
One look at the furnishings, and you knew a lot of insurance was sold here. It takes a flock of premiums to pay for the really good modern, the long, clean, functional stuff. Impressive. Jim Darrell was even more so, and I'd have bet that 90% of his policyholders were women. He seemed to be doing two things at once, shaving and keeping track of passers-by in the street outside. I watched him glance quickly out the window for the 5th time, smile happily, then make a check mark on a desk pad. I give up. What is it?
Electric shaver.
I mean the bit outside the window.
Oh, it's this year's version of counting license plates.
You playing alone?
With Clark, my partner. You see, he takes charcoal gray suits and I take Bermuda shorts. Based on strictly how many pass the window. The other side of the street doesn't count. Loser buys lunch.
Where's Clark?
Seeing a prospect. We play on the honor system.
Yeah. Mr. Darrell.
There, that's better. Yeah, palm quiz policy, huh? You want to know about it?
Well, you sound reluctant.
It's delicate.
So is this letter.
Look into PalmQuist policy. You may have to pay off soon. Nice corny touch there. Letters from a magazine pasted on to form the message.
Well, the style's a little old hat, but the meaning's clear enough. You want to fill me in?
The PalmQuist, Mr. Dollar? The last of one of our oldest families out here. Name, social position, money. They've got it all. That's why I'm not too impressed with this little, communique.
You were telling me about the family.
Palmquist's a doctor, an important one. Six-dish, to the manner born. Complete with iron gray hair and distinguished bearing. A, knows what he wants type of man. Has a tremendous practice and still finds time to go hunting about 2 months out of every year.
And his wife?
Invalid, confined to the house. A huge house, by the way, out near the beach. And there's a son, Eric, 25, who lives with them. That's the family.
About the policy, Darrell.
Simple enough. 100,000 straight coverage on both Dr. Palmquist and his wife.
And the beneficiaries?
Only one, the son, Eric.
For both?
For both. That's a pretty pointed grunt.
Why not? I was thinking of the double indemnity clause that'll be effective in a few days.
That's what I thought you were thinking.
Well, let me have a couple of addresses, will you? The house at the beach and Palmquist's office.
Sure. The office is only a few blocks from here. And, Dollar, please be tactful, will you? Those premiums, they're so lovely.
Well, the way to make sure they keep coming is to keep people healthy.
Yeah, I guess you have some. Hey, what do you know? Another one.
What?
Bermuda shorts.
Oh.
That puts me 3 up. Clark's going to scream like an eagle when he pays that lunch check. Today we eat at Romanoff's.
I walked the 4 or 5 blocks to Dr. Carl Palmquist's office. It was easy to find. You just look for the most expensive building in the most expensive part of Beverly Hills, or as the natives sometimes call it, Lootville. As I turned into the entrance, a young executive type brushed past me on the street. Suit? Charcoal gray. I hoped he wouldn't pass Darrell's window. Dr. Palmquist's office was all it should be. Tasteful, quietly lush, the kind of place that made you wonder why he didn't live right there. The nurse who came forward did nothing to destroy the thought. Blonde, complete with doe eyes, retrosé nose, and a figure that floated. Great medicine for the sick.
May I help you?
I'd like to see the doctor.
Do you have an appointment, Mr.
Dollar, Johnny Dollar. No, I haven't.
Dr. Palmquist isn't in right now.
Well, what time will he be back?
Well, he has a 4:30 appointment.
Suppose I show at 5, then, Miss...
Lund. Steffi Lund.
Miss Lund. 5?
I can't promise anything, but you might try.
Oh, I will. I'll try like mad. Expense account item 3, $38 even. Deposit and first day's rental on a drive-it-yourself car. And driving it out along Sunset Boulevard was delightful. I had no trouble at all getting into the California spirit. I pretended that I was a movie producer going home to his starlet wife. I found the Palmquist house on a quiet dead-end street high on the Palisades overlooking the Pacific. Darrell was right. It was huge, a single-story farmhouse that seemed to ramble endlessly. Well, it was a long way to come for nothing. I walked around the side of the house. Nobody tried to stop me. I moved through an open breezeway and wished that somebody had, because suddenly I felt like an intruder. Because of the woman sitting in the wheelchair staring vacantly down at the swimming pool that sparkled in the sunlight. Because of the way she poured a drink from the bottle beside her without ever looking at it. Because of the way she held the glass as though she wanted you to believe it was sarsaparilla tea, not whiskey.
It isn't really medicine, you know. I only pretend that it is.
Yeah, sure. Look, I didn't mean to barge in like this. Mrs. Palmquist?
Victor says it's disgusting. Calls it a sign of weakness. Do you feel that way, young man?
Well, nobody does anything without a reason. My name is Dollar, Mrs. Palmquist, and, well, I'd like to talk to you for a little while, if you feel up to it.
Weakness. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, it's...
Very sorry. Victor wouldn't like that either. Would you mind wheeling me into the house, young man? I'm very tired.
Oh, yeah, sure thing. You just relax. She leaned back in the chair and closed her eyes. She wasn't sleeping, just somewhere off in thoughts of her own. I pushed the chair toward the house as gently as I could. It wasn't until we almost reached it that I realized we had an audience. A good-looking kid in his mid-20s watching us from a bedroom window. A kid who didn't want to be seen. The way he jumped back from the window told me that. It was getting pretty weird out. Inside the house, I wheeled Mrs. Palmquist into a large living room. Gently, patiently, I tried to get her to answer a few questions, but I got nowhere. She wasn't rude, just secretive, smiling, and very far away. I was wondering how to get out gracefully when...
I'm so very sorry. I'm afraid I haven't been very attentive, have I, Mr. Dollar?
Suddenly, just as clear and lucid as that, I looked around to see what had made this almost magical change, and he was standing just inside the room, the kid I'd seen watching from the window.
Eric, come here, dear. This is my son, Eric. I'm afraid I've forgotten where you told me you were from, Mr. Dollar.
My mother's been ill, Mr. Dollar. She's not supposed to be disturbed.
Oh, now, Eric.
Oh, I am sorry. I was just leaving.
Good. I'll show you the way out.
Oh?
Maybe that would be best. You'll come back again, Mr. Dollar, when I'm feeling better.
Yeah, sure, of course.
Please make it soon. I don't seem to keep very good track of time. Another sign of weakness, I suppose.
Well,
When you show Mr. Dollar out, please come back, Paul.
Oh, yes, Mother.
You're a good son, Paul.
This way, Mr. Dollar. What do you want here? You can see she isn't well.
Yeah. It didn't take you long to go from Eric to Paul, did it?
She is not insane. You hear, Mr. Dollar?
I didn't say she was. Now, why did she call you Paul?
Paul was my older brother. He died 3 years ago. That's part of why she's like she is. A small part.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nobody's asking you to be. Just don't come back here.
I had plenty of time to kill before 5 o'clock, and a lot of things would have been pleasant. Sopping up the Malibu sun, watching the kids on the beach, you name it. But instead, I settled for a visit with an old friend, Lieutenant Barry, homicide. I wasn't just being social. Pretty sneaky, as a matter of fact. The anonymous note which underwriters had received intrigued Barry, and he promised to have it gone over by the police lab. At 5 on the dot, I was back in Dr. Palmquist's office.
Hi. You're a punctual sort of patient, Mr. Dollar.
Yeah, I used to get gold stars for it at school.
Well, I'm afraid Dr. Palmquist doesn't get one. He called just a little while after you left this morning.
Oh?
He said to cancel all appointments for today, that he wouldn't be in. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so am I.
I would have called you, but I didn't know where to reach you.
Oh, sure, that's okay. What about tomorrow?
I can give you an appointment at 10. How's that?
I'll be here. Thanks.
Mr. Dollar, would you like to give me some information now?
Like what?
Medical history, previous illnesses, complaints, the usual thing. Saves time in the morning.
Well, why don't we wait till tomorrow, in case Dr. Palmquist decides to play hooky again. There's one nice thing about this job. You get around so much you learn to pick up local habits without even thinking about it. For instance, that evening, I had a leisurely dinner, then took in an endless double feature. All without ever once getting out of my car. Drive-ins, you know. It was well after midnight when I got back to my hotel, feeling a kinship for bus drivers everywhere. I headed across the lobby, ran smack into Jim Darrell as I rounded the cigar stand.
Oh, Dollar, where have you been?
Well, hi, Darrell. Hey, who wound up paying for lunch?
Listen, I've been trying to get hold of you all night. Where were you?
Dinner, a movie, the wildlife, huh? Well, don't look that unhappy. I didn't do anything illegal.
Somebody did.
What? Hey, what is it, Darrell? What are you talking about?
Mrs. Palmquist. Dead. Shot to death a couple of hours ago.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's intriguing episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, variations on an old theme. You pays your money and you takes your choice. But no matter how you pick it, it comes out murder. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by Tony Barrett. It is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
June 25th, 1956, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. It behooves me to mention a couple of radio stations. I mentioned KXEL in Waterloo, Iowa, who has carried us for most of our 8-year run here of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. I want to also say thank you to the folks at KDON 101.5 in Las Vegas. Thank you for carrying us, and so many more. I don't have time to go through you all, but I want to thank the radio stations for carrying us, and I hope you will thank the radio stations for carrying us. Also support their advertisers. Thanks for joining us here for our whole run of Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite radio station.